Yes, so let's carry on talking about options.
All right, I was just saying about, and it gets back to looking from somebody else's point of view, but the reasons why you bought the property can very well be the reasons that will stop a lender from wanting to lend against the property. Now, if we rule out all the major deal breakers like flood areas and things like that, which can often be a very big deal breaker,
Sure.
Sometimes it's just because it is so run down or neglected or whatever else, or even trashed.
And those are the little rough diamonds we're looking for.
Exactly, because you're looking for a problem that you can fix.
Yes.
Sometimes the problem is it's not tenanted, and we all know what an empty commercial property is worth, don't we?
Yeah, most certainly, yes.
So, these are problems that you need to be able to fix. Now, under an option contract, you've actually got the time to begin to fix all of these problems before you even go and talk to a lender, and before a valuer even comes out and looks at it. And while on the one hand you want to buy the property for as little as possible, when it comes to on selling, you want to be able to sell it for as much as possible. But also, if you're going to have to borrow against it, because it's better to use other people's money, you want that property to value up as much as possible, which also helps you in your sales strategy.
So in an option, you're not borrowing anything while you're under option. However, by the time your option has come to term, you'd look at borrowing then, and by then your lender would be looking at your property totally differently, because your property then is going to be spruced up, painted, ready to re-tenant, if you haven't already tenanted.
Correct, yes, and all those things affect the value. In some ways you are better to have it tenanted already, because that is actually established income, that establishes the value, whereas if you're still advertising it, well, it's all potentiality, isn't it?
Well, and there's another factor involved, which would be your GST factor. So if you get to the end of your option and you haven't got a tenant by then, you are going to be paying GST on it. So you don't want to be going into that. So you want to make sure that if you are putting an option on a property, that it gives you enough time to renovate the property and you start marketing it straight away and getting it tenanted before you get to the end of that property. That option.
Yeah, correct. And as I said, like a delayed settlement, an option is buying you time. It's buying you time to do all of these things, and to not only get the things done you want to get done, but to put the property in the best possible light for either marketing or borrowing against, if you're going to be forced to actually settle and buy and hold for a little while before you sell it.
Absolutely. And most certainly if you're putting a tenant in there and you can afford to buy and hold and earn a little bit of cash flow out of it, I would always suggest that's a great strategy to go with. And there's some very creative things that you can do with distressed properties in areas that are distressed, and we've had some instances where people have got very creative at taking a small string of light commercial buildings, for instance, 6 commercials in a row in those small commercials, and turn them into very colourful sort of destinations with very trendy young, split them up into small tenancies and attracted a very young, vibrant, so spending a little bit of money, doing a lot of creativity, it's a little bit of advertising, there are those possibilities. Now I'm going to be running a couple of series on vacant properties, as well as doing up flip deals, chunk deals. So in the next month or two we're going to be doing a couple of talks, and Peter, if you're available, it will always be great to have you on board.
Sure, glad to do it, Mish, anytime.
Okay, so is there anything else that we haven't covered from an option point of view, financially, from your perspective?
Look, I'm sure there's a lot we haven't covered, which is why we always say go and do your own due diligence. But one thing I would say is that, as I said earlier, to always get a second opinion.
Yes.
If somebody says no, you can't do it, don't take that on face value. Go and get a second opinion. As I said, the lawyer says, oh, you've got to put down a 5% deposit on it. No, you don't.
No.
You can put down
whatever you want.
Whatever you want, whatever the vendor agrees to.
And that's basically it. It's a matter of what the vendor agrees to. And again, probably real estate agents are not going to really like doing options, because they don't get their commission immediately. So there might be a little bit of negotiation that one has to do with the agent.
Look, if you really think it's a good deal and all you're really trying to do is buy yourself time, and bearing in mind if you can buy yourself 6 or 8 months or more without having to pay interest or a whole lot of other things, that leaves funds in reserve. Often the way you can do it with the agent is you say, all right, here's where you don't put your $10 down at the option, but you work out what the agent's commission is. So the agent's commission, let's say it's $20,000. You say, all right, look, what I'll do under the option, I'll release $10,000 now for the agent's commission and the other $10,000 on the settlement if it settles.
Yes.
That will usually keep most agents happy.
And of course the other spin-off is that you can get the agent to start looking for a tenant, you know,
correct.
in a renovated building, which basically looks a hell of a lot better, and if anything, I mean, at a very nominal fee, you can actually have little graphics done of what the building would look like once it's tenanted. So in other words, an artist's impression, so that makes it easier for the tenant, for the agent to go out there and re-tenant. So he gets a double whammy. He should be happy.
Correct, and if he's already got $10,000 and he wants another $10,000 when it settles, he's going to be highly motivated to go and find you a really good tenant.
Yeah, so long as you're using the right agent in that case.
Yes.
But anyway, there's so many options, and this is really exciting stuff to be working on. So I hope you guys are enjoying these couple of videos that we're doing. So stay tuned. We're going to be doing a lot more in this area. And there is one thing. I keep ending and starting again. We were talking about, now an option is a legal binding document, okay?
Yes.
So it's a legal contract. Now a lot of people are probably going to be asking, how do they do an option? And you mentioned earlier that your mate has done options, and
yes.
he's spent a lot of time tweaking that sort of a deal. So an option is something that you would do with your solicitor.
Yeah.
Your solicitor would draw up an option contract, right?
Yeah, correct. You want to find a solicitor who does quite a lot of them. It needs to be their area of expertise. If it's your family solicitor who's done your will and you did the conveyancing in the last house, he's probably really good at that, and I'm sure he's a great guy, but maybe he's not the person to talk to about an option contract.
Yeah, okay. So if you do get there and you want some advice, get in touch with us, and we most certainly can help you out there.